Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special midweek Tim's News Explosion on this Wednesday, the 22nd of November, 2023. Now, as I informed you all on my social media, I wasn't able to stream on the regular Monday night because my video capture card suddenly stopped working, and I only discovered this on the Monday afternoon. I tried troubleshooting all evening, but to no avail. I was able to co-host and bring you The Theorists last night with Andy Nolch. That is because the workaround that I figured out was, so I dug up my old MacBook, which I used to stream all my shows in before I upgraded to a Mac Pro. And thankfully, the inbuilt camera still worked in StreamYard. So you're seeing me in just basic, the most basic of inbuilt web cameras tonight, not my full 1080p HD video camera, but you can see me and hear me. And thank you all for joining me two days late. Hello to regulars, Dawn Browning and Peak Aussie Men. Now, there's a lot that has changed since I was going to bring you the show 2 days ago. And Peak Aussie Man, he's preempted the breaking news that I'm going to bring you. So it is 9 p.m. I should say it is 9 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria. And we are live on the Wilmsfront YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble channels. And I've also got Entropy working. If you want to buy me a better capture device, so I can better strengthen my broadcasting capabilities so events like this don't happen, then please send a super chat on Entropy and I'll read it out. So Peak Aussie Man has got the breaking news there. Those emergency laws passed in the wake of the High Court ruling, which let those criminals and national security threats roam around the community freely, are already being challenged. Looks like the Britanisation of Australia is going to accelerate massively now. So yes, as a lot of you will know, the Albanese government, well, they were forced to by the Liberal and National opposition to draft emergency legislation on those 93 high-risk detainees, high risk to community safety. Now, this was a graph that the Age and the Sydney Morning Herald put out about the 92 persons who have what is termed 197C protection obligation findings are stateless or intractable. So 18 from Afghanistan, 17 from Iran, Sudan 10. That's not South Sudan, where a lot of Melbourne's African immigrants are South Sudanese. So there's 4 South Sudanese, 7 Iran, 9 that are deemed stateless. There is 3 from Eritrea, 3 from Sri Lanka, and I won't go through the full list. So there's 21 who are classified. Well, the Minister for Home Affairs has classified a national security, cybercrime, serious, high-profile, organized crime, gang-related, and then there is 27 that are Category 2. So they are those who are guilty of very serious offences, very serious crimes against children, very serious domestic violence, or violent, sexual, or exploitative offences against women. So that's 27. Then there's Category 3 and 4, character delegate character cases, violent, sexual, or exploitative offences. So that is 6 and 9. And now the refugee advocates who have cheered on this decision, there was this article in the Sydney Morning Herald last Friday. And now this is another one of the high profile murderers who has been released. So lady killer Tony Callisar. So he is now free in the community after serving a 20-year sentence for the death of his wife, Svevleta Podgoritsky, whom he strangled in Melbourne in 1997 before driving her body to Sydney. And now this going down here, this article quotes a Middle Eastern man who was released this week, served a 4-year jail term after he committed an assault in a fight when he was 17. He said, "I was young and immature. I didn't know better. I came from overseas and didn't have any support. Unfortunately, my stepdad kicked me out and I ended up in the street hanging around with the wrong crowd. We're not rapists and murderers. I feel like I'm being put in the basket with everyone else," he said. "I want to build a family and build a life." See, he's a good boy who only did something when he was younger. And so it quotes human rights lawyer Alison Batson, who represents 16 of the released individuals. She says that her clients are not serious offences because they weren't charged with murder. 7 were charged with assault, and others charged with breaching apprehended violence orders. And this article also quotes David Mann, a longtime refugee advocate who scuttled the Gillard government's Malaysian solution in the High Court. He is the nephew of Robert Mann, who is a high-profile leftist writer and the monthly and quarterly essay, and also quotes Kim Rubenstein. So she ran as a Teal independent for the ACT Senate, Kim for Senate. She's a constitutional lawyer at the Australian National University. She was basically a candidate so that David Pocock could get her preferences. So there was obviously, she had a bit of a following in Canberra. Her preferences went to David Pocock, and he was elected there. And so David Mann and Kim Rubenstein said the government's new laws could be subject of a fresh court challenge, which they are. So this is to put a strict conditions on their bridging visas, which include ankle bracelets, curfews, and also not allowing them to work with children. Now, we learnt today from the Western Australian Chief Commissioner that of the 8 sex offenders that were released from immigration detention, 4 have left the state, 4 remain and don't have ankle bracelets. None of them do. And so this hasn't happened. The Western Australian Police Commissioner said that he doesn't have the power to do this, only to have them comply with the conditions in their bridging visas. And Michael Daly, the New South Wales Attorney General, who just yesterday announced strengthened hate speech laws that would be put through the Parliament, he said, "Oh, this is a federal matter. I haven't got any briefing." And Claire O'Neill this morning, she said she didn't know if they had ankle bracelets or not. And she said, "Oh, my junior minister Andrew Giles, he will get back with the detail. Basically, throwing her junior minister under the bus there. And also, it has been revealed by the ABC today. They got a good exclusive here. That Claire O'Neill, when the lead plaintiff, the Rohingya man who had raped a 10-year-old boy, he's referred to as NZYQ, they had been considering releasing him to avoid this High Court challenge. So they weren't. Claire O'Neill told Sky News on Sunday that the legal advice is that they were going to win. Yet they were worried that they might lose, so we're willing to let this convicted pedophile be out on the street. So the lesson is sue the government, and you can be released. Be released despite your heinous crime. So Claire O'Neill said, these were just conversations. It was not legal advice. So I don't comment on legal advice. And the ABC, because we just saw in this Sydney Morning Herald piece, this lawyer Alison Batten saying there that that most of her clients were not serious offenders. So these are having said that, these are some of the detainees who are now living amongst us in the community. So person A sentenced to 22 years for the murder of his wife, but served 18 years. That's this man who was quoted at the beginning of the story, Tony Calasar. Then there's person B sentenced to 3 years for people smuggling in immigration detention for 11 years. Person C, multiple prison sentences, including one for 10 months for punching his 8-month-old daughter. That is absolutely disgusting, appalling. How can he only get 10 months for punching his 8-month-old daughter? That's absolutely abhorrent. Immigration detention for 9 years. I mean, he should have got at least 9 years for that penalty. Person D, no Australian convictions, but has been of interest to Asia, immigration detention for 13 years. Person E sentenced to 3 years and 4 months for trafficking a controlled drug in immigration detention for 2 years. Person F sentenced to 11 years for people smuggling in immigration detention for 2.5 years. And person G sentenced to 4 months and 6 months for rape, false imprisonment, and indecent assault in immigration detention for 5 years. Now, going back to Kim Rubenstein, she said that the High Court might strike these rules down because they're punitive, that they wouldn't be the same conditions that an Australian paroled person would. Well, obviously, if you're an Australian citizen, have the privilege of Australian citizenship, you do have extra rights. These people, they all came to Australia illegally, or I'm not sure, but managed to get their foot in the door. They are certainly not worthy of Australian citizenship, so no way should they have the same protection as Australian as citizenship. But you're getting an idea here that our judicial system does seem to give inadequate sentences here. So we have and Claire O'Neill has said that there could be, going back to the Sydney Morning Herald article, that there could be another 340 of these types of people released because it hasn't been determined whether they're being able to be resettled to a third country or deported. So the High Court ruling overcovered those who had no prospect of being sent back to their country of origin. So we have had the Albanese government. At first, they said, there's nothing we can do. We have to comply with the High Court. Oh, yeah, there is legislation that we can pass. Only when we are under political pressure, and we still don't know the reasoning for the High Court's decision. That won't be released for next year. Another one of these high-profile offenders is Cyril Azar Umar, who was sentenced to death in Malaysia for the 2006 murder of a pregnant woman. So he was a former Malaysian Prime Minister or bodyguard. He can't be deported to Malaysia because we don't deport people to countries which have the death penalty. I mean, surely something can be arranged where a Malaysian kidnap squad can come in and smuggle him out of the country and we turn a blind eye. I mean, seriously, he's allowed on the street because, even though he murdered somebody, a pregnant woman, it is because it's the death penalty, then we can't deport him. I mean, we'll get to, obviously, the reason why our High Court feels justified. It overturned its own precedent, and they said it's because of the separation of powers. Only judges like them should be able to make the decisions here, not ministers. So the only way to get around this High Court decision is if we had a referendum to repeal the separation of powers in our Australian Constitution. But I don't think that would get up because all the usual human rights crowd would all oppose it. Ron Nielsen has said we need to reinstate capital punishment. I'm quite merciful. I still think we need to be better than the absolute scum. But I certainly understand the sentiment of those who believe that, pedophiles should get the death penalty. A lot of people's preferred method for putting pedophiles to death is in a wood chipper. I certainly understand why people feel that way. But for me, I still think that we still need to be better than the absolute scum of our society, and so it's an extremely remote prospect that the death penalty will ever be reinstated into Australia. Now it was a busy day for not just the Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neil, but the Communications Minister Michelle Rowland, who of course has delayed the introduction of the mis and disinformation bills for a little while because there was no exemption for religious belief. So social media companies under pressure from ACMA could, if you stated scripture, it could be deemed to be not true because of fact checking, even though religion is a set of beliefs and beliefs can't be proven wrong. But she made a defense of the mis and disinformation bill because, I'll play the clip here, but she's basically paraphrasing the old misinformation is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Spread online at speed and scale, both misinformation and disinformation can cause serious harm, sow divisions within the community, undermine trust, and threaten public health and safety. We are talking about harmful misinformation spread during a global pandemic that claimed millions of lives, about cancer misinformation that prevents a patient from seeing their doctor during the critical time when recovery is still possible, and disinformation spread by bad actors who want to undermine our democracy. It was recently reported the Chief of the Defence Force said disinformation operations have the potential to fracture and fragment entire societies. And as former ACCC Chair Rod Sims wrote recently, doing nothing in this area would represent an abrogation of responsibility by government.
So, even though government, especially during the COVID pandemic, was the biggest peddler of mis and disinformation, I mean, myself and Andy discussed last night the push again by the media and some experts for mask mandates, even though the Cochrane review found masks don't work for containing respiratory viruses. all of the Labour MPs, they still defend lockdowns, even though Sweden, which never locked down, has more excess deaths than Australia. Senator Slayer said, "Why is TNE on a Wednesday?" You know damn well why it is on a Wednesday. I mean, rewind to the beginning of the stream and you'll find out. And now today, it was the first day of Bruce Lehman's defamation trial against Network 10. He reached a confidential settlement with the ABC this morning, so we don't know any details about that. That was over the ABC broadcasting Brittany Higgins National Press Club address. So it was live streamed on the Federal Court of Australia's YouTube channel, Network 10. They tried to block the live stream, but the federal court said rejected that, saying that trials that are in the public interest should be live streamed. So the Novak Djokovic deportation case that was live streamed by the federal court, so you could watch it today. Bruce Lehman took the stand and talked about how he was defriended. He was friends. Well, not really. They turned out to be not really friends. Cut him off, removed me from group chats, blocking him, and also said that it sent him into a deep spiral. I mean, if you've seen his Spotlight interviews with Liam Bartlett, you will have heard this. And so he mentions he becomes severely isolated, and so here's QC Matthew Richardson, SC, said that the broadcast between Lisa Williams and Ms. Higgins had Ms. Lehman publicly maligned as certainly the most prominent rapist. We say the publication that seared this allegation of rape into the national consciousness was the TV interview. His legal team claimed the flagship network current affairs program had carefully edited the emotion of Miss Higgins and argued it painted Mr. Lehman as a odious predator after using sinister sound effects from a horror movie for the interview. Mr. Lehman has lost everything. The fact the prosecutor decided at the end of last year not to pursue criminal charges had not stopped the hemorrhaging. A substantial award of damages will be called for, accompanied by a Richmond judgment vindicating Mr. Lehman. Now, you'll remember that Bruce Lehman was named as the high-profile Toowoomba man. Some of the headlines say he's accused of rape, but he's accused of stealthing. So a woman that he met on a night out, went back to her place and had sex with. He's being charged with stealthing her, having sex with her without a condom. She only went to police when she recognized Bruce Lehman on the TV news, accused of raping Brittany Higgins. Senator Slayer said, "Wouldn't the ABC have to disclose it due to it being a government-funded channel?" You should think so. I really hate it when governments they try to get out of disclosing settlements or agreements, saying it's commercial in confidence. No, it's taxpayer money. We should have the right to know. Daniel Andrews tried that trick with the Commonwealth Games settlement. I mean, he named the figure 380 million, but said, "Oh, we can't discuss any of it because it's confidential." And he advocated for that confidentiality there. So, I mean, it should be an automatic right of taxpayers to know where every dollar of the money that is stolen from us, taxation is theft, is being spent. Now, staying on legal news, Moira Deeming, the independent Liberal MLC in Victoria, who John Pesciuto, the current Victorian Liberal leader, on his second attempt, expelled her from the parliamentary party room. So Moira Deeming released a statement on Monday that mediation had failed, and so now the defamation case is proceeding. So this is the statement that Moira put out on Twitter X. So she says, I was falsely accused and publicly accused by the Victorian Liberal leader John Prosciutto of being a knowing associate of neo-Nazi sympathisers and extremists, and therefore deserving of expulsion from the Parliamentary Liberal Party. Mr. Prosciutto has denied making these accusations against me and claims that he sought my expulsion because I'm guilty by association with persons who were themselves guilty by associations with neo-Nazism. The guilt by association fallacy is well known, but Mr. Prosciutto's version of guilt by association, twice or thrice removed from the most extreme and serious punishment of expulsion, appears to be an excuse rather than reason. Even Mr. Prosciutto's very own evidence dossier, which was distributed to my colleagues, the public, and the media, it's been shown to be false. These unjustified and defamatory actions have caused me, my husband, and our 4 children enormous harm, personally, financially, and reputationally. But out of respect of the Liberal Party members who have supported me and other senior Liberal members, I've tried to use internal party process to resolve the matter and more legal action. All I've ever wanted from Mr. Prosciutto is a full and official exoneration that my children don't have to live under this Nazi bigot slow restoration of my financial position and right will return to the party room as an elected Liberal MP. And she said, unfortunately, mediation's failed. It's with great regret as a current Liberal Party member that I have left with no option but to watch my defamation case against Mr. Prosciutto in court. And now John Prosciutto, he put out a statement of his own, and he denied that he had ever called Miss Deeming a neo-Nazi or a sympathizer, and says that Miss Deeming's suspension and subsequent expulsion was never about her views on women's issues. This issue is a matter that never concerned freedom of speech. The issue has always been whether Miss Deeming called out or distanced herself from neo-Nazi protesters and references when asked to do so by senior Liberals. I am proud to lead a diverse Liberal Party proud to lead a Liberal Party with diverse views and people from all walks of life. I will rigorously defend the Liberal Party myself in the proceedings. It will not be asking the party to cover any legal fees. So it is on. I certainly hope that this defamation trial and the federal court is also live streamed. So I think open justice is a good thing, and I'm glad that obviously it's more common in America. They have those court TV stations which broadcast obviously even criminal trials. The most high profile, the O.J. Simpson trial. Lady of Charlotte, who was there with me that day of the Let Women Speak rally in Melbourne, where the National Socialist Network turned up. So parties expect their members to toe the line. They generally do toe the line, hence nothing changes. And now John Prosciutto, we tried to spin their Mulgrave by-election loss, where they don't know whether they'll finish second or third behind, in front or behind independent Ian Cook. He said that because there'd been a primary and 2-party preferred swing against Labor, that it was a great victory for them. And of course, he championed the Warrandyte by-election victory where Labor didn't stand. So he's obviously spinning it because, well, he needs to spin it for his survival. He should consider himself lucky that he has survived the year as Victorian Liberal parliamentary leader. Probably because there's hardly anyone else who is going has leadership qualities there. Now, moving on to other legal news. Now, if Christina Keneally had won the lower house seat of Fowler in southwestern Sydney at last year's federal election, she would be currently the Home Affairs Minister and probably would have made more a hash of this dealing with this High Court decision than Claire O'Neill has. Well, yesterday, her son, Daniel Keneally, who's a police officer, he was found guilty of false evidence. So the magistrate, Rodney Brenda, rejected claims by Keneally's lawyer that his client made an honest mistake while looking at the sources of information at a busy station. So this related to a night shift at a Newtown police station when Luke Brett Moore called in February 2021. Keneally's written statement, which told the court he felt pressured to make after talking to high-ranking officers, resulting in Moore being arrested and held in custody for 3 weeks. The activist and founder of I Sue Police was later released on bail, and the charges dropped due to a recording of the conversation made on his phone. These included, the recording taken without Keneally's knowledge showed significant discrepancies to what was in the officer's statement. These included Keneally naming a police officer who alleged Moore threatened to kill, which had not occurred. The magistrate said the conversation as recorded by Keneally in his statement just did not happen. There is no basis to suggest any other person suggested in the context or affected Keneally's memory. The magistrate found Keneally knew it was a real possibility that evidence of a threat to a policeman could lead to a prosecution. Keneally will remain on bail to be sentenced on December 21. Outside court, Keneally's lawyer, Paul McGursity's client, holds his head up high and said, we'll definitely appeal. And my client would never willfully put something in a statement that he knew to be false. So there you go. That is quite a alarming and eyebrow-raising development there. But unlike in Victoria, it's good that New South Wales police officers are successfully charged and found guilty. I can't remember the last time that happened here in Victoria. Now, let's go to the latest in the first the local impact of the Israel-Palestine conflict, the Israel-Hamas war. So today, Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton, they attended the reopening of Melbourne's Holocaust Museum after it had been renovated. And so Anthony Albanese used the opportunity to say that he's firmly against anti-Semitism and that hate, that the Holocaust didn't, it didn't start with gas chambers. It started with bigotry and hatred. I'm paraphrasing here. Also yesterday, former Jewish students of Brighton Secondary College, they rejected the apology by the Victorian Department of Education. So that Devere Abramovich was on the news last night saying, "Oh, the apology was a little late." So we also had tonight, there was the Victoria Police Special Operations Unit arrested 2 men in Carswell Street in Balaclava, where that mural was painted over, because it was deemed offensive to Jewish people because they were drawing in a caricature, which was deemed offensive because that's the way they were drawn in 1930s Germany cartoon. So 2 men were arrested by the Special Operations Victoria Police in the camouflage gear. There was about 41 officers there. Now, it was automatically assumed that they were engaging in anti-Semitic conduct. The Victoria Police said that wasn't the case. So what was it then? That is totally bizarre to see. We haven't seen those men out on the street since lockdown, since they had their tanks in the street. So we shall see if there's more information that comes out about that. We have the school strike for Palestine this week. So it's tomorrow in Melbourne, and I believe it's Friday. So all of the premiers So Jacinta Allen Victoria, New South Wales Premier Chris Minns, and of course the Federal Education Minister Jason Clare have all said that students should be in class and should not take part in the student strike for Palestine. We also had, there was a protest at Port Botany last night because it's mainly being led by the pro-Palestinian Antifa activists. So they were the ones before Hamas's assault on southern Israel on October 7. They were championing the BDS boycotts, divestment, sanctions, and so one of their initial targets, I remember back in the day, was Max Brenner, a chocolate coffee shop. But now recently they're going after Starbucks and McDonald's. They tried to stop the docking of this container ship Zim because it was owned by an Israeli company. Now they were all physically removed by New South Wales police. And of course, they claimed police brutality, even though they were blocking a road, which is an offence. Obviously, when leftist protests, they believe because their cause is worthy that they can do whatever they want and should never be arrested. But of course, they never defended the rights of people to gather in a park during COVID lockdowns, and didn't decry the police brutality with capsicum spray and rubber bullets. So they arrested and charged 23 people from the 400 who have gathered. The New South Wales Premier Chris Minns defended the police, and the New South Wales Police Commissioner Karen Webb, she had she was very blunt and said that she said, I would say broadly that most or a large number were professional protesters who currently are protesting about the Gaza conflict, but next week they're probably protesting about something else. That's refreshing, blunt commentary there from a police commissioner there. I mean, they'd be the ones who would also be protesting to protect drag queen story time, and also probably protested in favor of the voice, all sorts of, you name the cause, environmental protesters, be the same sorts of people there. And I wouldn't mind because Ron DeSantis in Florida, he attempted to pass a law that you wouldn't be prosecuted if you ran over protesters who are blocking the road. Now that was struck down by a federal court, but I believe that these trucks should have the freedom to drive through these people. And I'm not sure if you've seen the footage of trucks or cars driving through protesters. They're absolutely crazy, these protesters. They grab hold of the car like they're prepared to basically get run over and seriously injured for their cause. They're absolutely fanatic. Now, obviously, I don't advocate people doing that, but I do believe that Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, had the right idea that if you shouldn't be prosecuted if you hurt a protester who is blocking the road there. Lady of Shalott says, in the UK, if you take your kid out of school to go on holiday, you're fined, but apparently kids walking out to protest for Palestine is fine. Huge number of kids in London walked out last Friday. That was the Friday for Futures strike by Greta Thunberg. I'm not sure if you saw Greta got interrupted on the microphone because a guy was upset. We're here for a climate rally, not for geopolitics, because Greta wanted to put her 2 cents in on Gaza as well. Now, we have the big news from Israel-Palestine was the Israeli cabinet agreeing to It's called a 4-day truce in fighting in exchange for 50 Israeli hostages. So there'll still be over 150 remaining. But Israel is going to release 150 Palestinian prisoners. Now, they're not political prisoners, they are criminals. And though Israel has said that they'll grant another extra day of ceasefire if another 10 hostages is released. Now, apparently, this deal was brokered with the help of the US, Egypt, and Qatar, who is providing safe haven for many Hamas leaders. And now, on the face of it, this seems like a terrible deal because they're giving more Palestinians back than Hamas is giving back Israelis. Now, it's the 50 are all women and children. So the men, basically, they have to all, they're all being still held captive. I guess that Israel, they know the definition of a woman. But on the face of it, this seems like a terrible deal. And Benjamin Netanyahu, he's still saying that we are still going to destroy Hamas, eliminate the threat to our security from Gaza. The war is not over. That sort of makes you think. So you're having a truce and having this exchange with a group you still want to destroy. Now, of course, there is concern that in this truce period, that Hamas could regroup and rearm. And well, if we have seen that the Israeli intelligence, supposedly the best in the world, completely failed on October 7, and the fact that they had no idea where all these tunnels went. I mean, they're supposed to be the best spies, surveillance, and everything. They didn't know where any of these tunnels were in Gaza or how they were built or anything. Gaza is a very young population, so there's not much to do there except reproduce. And obviously, the children there are taught from a young age to hate Israel, and so a lot of them grow up to be martyrs from a young age. Ron Nielsen says, clearly a Mossad false flag. If that is true, then it hasn't worked out the way that they thought. They thought that they would get this mass pouring of international grief and support, and that because this is what 50 years ago, all of the Western nations would have been Israel. You have our complete support to take whatever means necessary to defeat your enemy. Though I think that the reason why Israel has in part made this deal is because they are losing the PR war internationally. And this was admitted by Avi Yemeni. Israel is losing the battle for worldwide public support as they win the war on Hamas. Only one matters for her survival. And I think he means the public support, because obviously, well, Israel, they're falling into Hamas's trap of killing civilians who they use as human shields. It's still Israel who's doing it. And given that there has been a major fight in a hospital, that the images coming out of that are shocking. And now there was this audio released of the Anti-Defamation League's Jonathan Greenblatt. Now he has obviously been at the forefront of promoting anti-whiteism in the United States, supporting mass migration into the United States, but not to Israel, of course. Though this is where I thought Jews were meant to be smart. So Jews like Jonathan Greenblatt have advocated that there be mass migration from nations in the world who hate Jews and Israel into the country where he lives. And in this audio, he reveals that, well, basically, we're screwed. The support for Israel now is evaporating in the West and the United States.
But I also want to point out that we have a major generational problem. All the polling I've seen, ADL's polling, ICC's polling, independent polling, suggests this is not a left-right gap, folks. The issue in the United States of support for Israel is not left and right. It is young and old. And the numbers of young people who think that Hamas's, massacre was justified is shockingly and terrifyingly high. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Taglit, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this, fast. Because again, we've been chasing this left-right divide. It's the wrong game. The real game is the next generation, and the Hamas and their accomplices, the useful idiots in the West, are falling in line in ways that are terrifying. Last thing I'll just say, we saw a dramatic change in the language of the activists here in America on October the 8th. The language of groups that we've long tracked, who've long been problematic, like Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voices for Peace, they flipped like this and went to Iranian propaganda. The language I could show you from their toolkits, because our analysts are in their groups. We saw this again on October the 8th. It was that fast. The language in their toolkits was all about the Zionist entity and lots of other language that we recognized from Iranian propaganda.
And also leftist celebrities who've supported progressive causes. Now, the Jewish celebrities, they are now very upset with TikTok. So Sacha Baron Cohen, Deborah Messing, and Amy Schumer, they had a confrontational call with executives from TikTok. So you'll remember that Sacha Baron Cohen, he accepted a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Anti-Defamation Commission, even though he's made his career by defaming groups in his films and television series. So according to the New York Times, more than 30 influential people, including Sacha Baron Cohen, Deborah Messing, and Amy Schumer, had an impassioned 90-minute video call with TikTok executives earlier this year. And so Baron Cohen is quoted as saying, "What is happening at TikTok is creating the biggest anti-Semitic movement since the Nazis." He added that the service could flip a switch to silence such videos and noted, "If you think back to October 7, the reason why Hamas were able to behead young people and rape women was they were fed images when there were small kids that led them to hate." Now, the reason why TikTok has been singled out is because it became a viral last week of these Gen Zers to read Osama bin Laden's purported letter to America in 2002. Now, it is disputed that by some that Osama bin Laden actually masterminded 9/11. Yes, he took credit for it, but he thought it was in his interest to take credit for such a terror attack against the United States. So all of these Zoomers, they were like, "Oh, I just read Osama bin Laden's letter to America, and oh my God, it blew my mind. It has totally changed my view on America and the Middle East." So in the in the letter, Osama bin Laden says America is a land of godless homosexual degenerates. And so this is another Sunnyside cartoon edit. When Osama bin Laden says it, the Zoomer woman says, "Oh, you're sweet." But when Matt Walsh says America is a land of godless homosexuals degenerates, she calls up and says, "Hello, human resources." And there was another one. I'm trying to find it here. Never mind. So yes, and this of course represents the absolute contradiction with some leftist activists. I mean, they're totally behind all of the LGBT intersectionality, but and read Osama bin Laden's letter to America and think, oh wow, that's blows my mind. But remember Tom Tanuki? He put out I'm not sure if I covered this on last week's news, but Tom Tanuki, he put out a tweet saying that he was prepared to have a conversation with those who are pro-Palestine, who came from the freedom movement, but would not work with those who campaigned against LGBTQ causes. So, I mean, I suppose he does have some sort of line there. You would think there, rather than just being 100% contradictory there. Now, we have seen first we saw some members of the Israeli Knesset. They advocated for the West to take refugees from Palestine, and there was an op-ed in the Jerusalem Post from Israel Intelligence Minister Gilad Gamil, proposed the voluntary resettlement of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip to countries around the world. And Australia has taken up Israel's offer. So Anthony Albanese this afternoon announced that Australia would grant temporary visas to 680 Palestinians in Gaza who apparently have some relation to Palestinians here. You can just add them to those who attend Free Palestine rallies in Melbourne. I mean, they'll 100% bring their grievance here, even though when you're supposed to come to a new country, you're meant to assimilate, leave your, obviously, you can retain your culture, but you have the right to maintain your culture within the confines of Australian law and customs, but you definitely shouldn't bring your grievances here. Now, as I said before, all these Israeli MPs and ministers, I mean, obviously they care about their fellow Jews in Western nations. They will have seen the Free Palestine rallies in London, in other Western cities, and in Australia, attended by tens of thousands every week. And we've seen here in Melbourne and Sydney, there have been assaults against Jewish people in Melbourne and Sydney. There was a Jewish man who was killed over in California. This is all anti-Jewish aggression that has occurred after October 7. Lydia Thorpe mentioned that the posters of Israelis who have been kidnapped by Hamas and held hostage are ripped down. I mean, Jews. I hope that for many Jews in the West, the penny is beginning to drop. I mean, I played Greenblatt's audio, I'm not sure that he's put 2 and 2 together. Now, Alex Jones went on a rant saying that, shouldn't you resettle and assimilate Palestinians in Israel, which is near where they live anyway? Benjamin Netanyahu's son lives in Florida.
And my children's life ruined while you put your wreckage in my country. I demand Benjamin Netanyahu take 20 Palestinians in his house. And I demand his candy-ass son in Miami suit up in body armor and go to Gaza and fight these people or get the hell out of my world. And I don't say that because I hate Jews. I say that because I'm not a toilet bowl you sit on and shit on. I'm not here to eat your fucking shit. You fucking got that? And I'm sick of...
That were... when did Alex Jones start swearing there? He must not be on terrestrial radio anymore if he's saying fucking shit. Obviously, I swear on this program because YouTube allows it, and I like to bring you the news uncensored, and there's a lot of swearing that happens in the news, and there's a lot more confronting news that happens than just a few curse words. Now, the other hypocrisy that's been pointed out. So I mentioned how all of these leftist progressive celebrities, now they have a problem with what's being pushed on TikTok. So the Jewish donors to the universities, now they're pulling funding because of all the pro-Palestine activism and condemnation of Israel that's occurred at university campuses and in clubs, and is also occurring in academia. And this is what Candace Owens, who is in a somewhat of a beef with her colleague Ben Shapiro, no longer her boss. So I covered this last night on The Theorist with Andy Nolch. I think that Candace Owens is, well, Jeremy Boring, co-founder of the Daily Wire, said that he wouldn't fire Candace Owens if he had the power to do so. Candace Owens went on Tucker's X program, and they discussed this hypocrisy that these Jewish donors, they're fine with all the anti-whiteism that was spouting from universities the past 8 years, but when it's against their people, then, well, that's a red line. But they were fine with all the hatred that was spouted against white people and white men such as myself.
However, then I thought, well, wait a second. If the biggest donors at, say, Harvard have decided, well, we're going to shut it down now, where were you the last 10 years when they were calling for white genocide? You were allowing this. And then I found myself really hating those people, actually. That you're okay with that? On what grounds were you okay with that?
And this is what I've been trying to explain to the pro-Israel lobby, that what you are seeing as lack of support is people that are asking the question is, where were you as we have endured all of this?
You were paying for it, actually.
Right.
You were paying for it.
You were paying for it.
You were calling my children immoral for their skin color. You paid for that. And so why shouldn't I be mad at you? I don't understand.
And so that is, obviously you have a ton of white people that are asking this question, and they're now being called anti-Semitic. And I think that that's wrong. I think these are meaningful questions that deserve to be answered. Why was this sort of verbiage allowed into the curriculum? I mean, could you imagine if in the curriculum it said that every Jewish person born is a terrorist?
Now, even Ben Shapiro, he got his pro-Israel blinkers off and was able to realize that, yes, that is a hypocrisy. And so he went and he had a monologue on his show, which was reposted by Elon Musk on X, because he was accused of anti-Semitism by the White House. because of his reply to this tweet here. I'll bring out, this is where my old MacBook is starting to, it hasn't got much memory. It's starting to slow up the CPU here. So just bear with me for a moment. So yes, my internet is absolutely fine at the moment, but yes, it's just when I do screen share here. So White House targets Elon Musk, accuses him of anti-Semitism on X. And so he was replying to the artist formerly known as Eric, who said, okay, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. I'm deeply disinterested in giving them the tiniest shit now about Western Jewish populations coming to the disturbing. And Elon Musk replied, you have said the actual truth. The ADL unjustly attacks the majority of the West, despite the majority of the West supporting the Jewish people in Israel. This is because they cannot, by their own tenets, criticize the minority groups who are their primary threat. It is not right and needs to stop. So yes, the White House, which tolerates the squad. That White House spokesperson Andrew Bates accused Elon Musk of repeating a hideous anti-Semitic lie on the platform. Bates said it was unacceptable that Musk had engaged with the post, saying that it affirmed an anti-Semitic sentiment. The original post contained an advertisement, PSA encouraging parents to discourage their children from being racist against Jews. The ad showed a white man and his white son in a pickup truck and did not acknowledge the primary source of anti-Semitism is currently in the major cities among leftist progressives and Arabs. It is unacceptable to repeat the hideous lie that the most fatal act of anti-Semitism in American history at any time, let alone 1 month after the deadliest day of the Jewish people since the Holocaust, Bates said in a statement. Like President Biden said weeks ago, memorializing the victims of the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting on October 7, devastating atrocities brought to the surface painful memories left by millennia of anti-Semitism. And under his presidency, will continue to condemn anti-Semitism at every turn. We condemn this abhorrent promotion of anti-Semitic and racist hate in the strongest possible terms, which run against our core values. Now, Media Matters for America, which was founded by ex-conservative David Brock. So Elon Musk has launched a lawsuit against them after they put together so they tried to claim that ads on X are under Nazi post. And Elon Musk has filed this lawsuit because it all stemmed from their screenshots. It all stemmed from this fake account that Media Matters created and basically manipulated and kept refreshing so they could get the result that they wanted. And so Disney and Warner Brothers have withdrawn their ads from X. I mean, it's good to know where, like they're prepared to pump out cultural Marxist garbage. It's interesting to know where their lines are, and so through this statement, X will protect the public rights to free expression. We will not allow agenda-driven activists or even their own profits to deter our vision. Everyone has a choice on X. User and brand content of X is superior to a year ago. Data wins over allegations. Media Matters does not reflect the user experience on X. Now, Elon Musk, he has diversified X's formerly known as Twitter's revenue as soon as he took over by the X Premium, formerly Twitter Blue. So obviously, when you have a platform where you are the customer, it is a better user experience, and Twitter X is much better than when he took over it. Though obviously the leftists, they say it's become a hate cesspit, but they still can't quit X. So obviously, they've been predicting the end of Twitter ever since Elon Musk took over, saying that it'll fail any day now. Elon Musk is destroying the platform. So we also have the attorney generals of Texas and Missouri. They are looking to file a suit against Media Matters for their manipulative research. So they are looking to launch federal lawsuits, which is, I mean, basically, like, you can argue it's a fraudulent investigation. Andrew Bailey told Elon Musk that his office is investigating Media Matters, a liberal organization pushing advertisers to leave the platform. And Ken Paxton, he's the Attorney General in Texas. He was the subject of a failed impeachment motion led by the Rhinos. He was exonerated. He also spoke to Tucker on X about how his own side tried to take him down. And we also have a Donald Trump. He has launched a lawsuit against 20 media outlets who have defamed his Truth Social. So he's suing The Guardian, Hollywood Reporter, Rolling Stone, Nexstar Media, Deadline Hollywood, The Daily Beast, Newsweek, MSNBC, New York Daily News, CNBC, Mediate, Axios, Market Watch. The list goes on and on there. Donald Trump, he only had one tweet on his Twitter X account, and that was of his mugshot. All of his posts continue to remain exclusive to Truth Social, and he also put out a video congratulating the new Argentinian president, Javier Milei, on his election.
A very special congratulations to Javier Milei on a great race for president of Argentina. The whole world was watching, and I am very proud of you. You will turn your country around and truly make Argentina great again. Congratulations.
And Milei has wasted no time. He hasn't even taken office yet. But for those who are skeptical that he can achieve his goals, well, the Argentinian stock market surged today, and he is closing the Argentinian Ministry of Women, Gender and Equality in 21 days, completely gone. So there you go. He's already draining the swamp before he even takes office. I mean, he means business. I mean, Trump, he hardly drained any of the swamp, but he was still considered the biggest threat to the deep state ever. That they leaked against him. He was impeached twice. There's also the Dutch parliamentary elections tomorrow, where longtime nationalist and Islam critical politician from the Party for Freedom, Geert Wilders. I saw him when he toured Australia, when he was invited by the Q Society. So polls show that his party could come first, and Geert Wilders is pro the Dutch farmers, who the former Prime Minister is not seeking re-election, Mark Rutte, was aiming to screw over with his nitrogen emissions reduction mandates. So it would be an absolute epic win if Geert Wilders was able to win the most seats and therefore become Prime Minister. He has to live with 24-hour security. I don't think he's even able to take a shower or take a dump in private now because of the threats against his life. There's been a couple of Dutch politicians, and there was an artist who was assassinated by radical Islamists. Now, going back to the United States 2024 presidential election, obviously Donald Trump, as I said, he didn't really drain the swamp, though I still think he was the best disruptor to the United States deep state and political establishment, which is why I back him again in 2024. I mean, he's the one who is the least neocon in the Republican race. So you had Mike Pence and Tim Scott drop out. So there is remaining Chris Christie, Vivek Ramaswamy, who tells you what you want to hear. There is Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, and there is Nikki Haley, who is the most neocon, most pro national security state. This was her latest policy, that she wants social media that you can only use it if your identity has been verified.
When I get into office, the first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms. Let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing. The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots. And then you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say.
Accountability.
And they know their pastor and their family member is going to see it. It's going to help our kids, and it's going to help our country.
Now, Nikki Haley doesn't use her real name. So her real name is Nimarata Nikki Haley. She is Ni Rahandwa. And now she's eager to tell us of her Indian heritage. My father wore a turban. My mother wore a tiara. I was a black and brown girl in a brown girl in a black and white America. Almost recited it there, word for word. So she is an extremely dangerous politician. She'd be an extremely dangerous president. She's currently not a politician. She's earning a good coin, advising for all these military contractors. But in polling against Joe Biden, she beats Joe Biden, as does Ron DeSantis, and of course does Donald Trump. Donald Trump is easily going to win the Republican nomination. And they're really scared now, the Democrats and the media, who they're now seriously commentary is growing that Biden shouldn't run again. We know that Gavin Newsom, governor of California, Gruesome Newsom, is waiting as the emergency candidate. He was obviously, his state hosted APEC recently, and he was able to just basically sweep the homeless off the streets of San Francisco, just like that. And I don't know where they went, but make sure the streets are clean for when his mate Xi Jinping came to town. And now it is Thanksgiving tomorrow in the United States. Obviously, the United States is a day behind us, but Thursday is Thanksgiving, and then there of course is Black Friday, which we have Black Friday sales in Australia now because we're in a global commerce trade. There's Cyber Black Friday, so if you want to send a super chat to me now, then I can spend it spend it on some equipment to help strengthen my production, and I can also buy it at a discounted price there. So entropy there. Well, it's not just Amazon's fault, Lady of Shallots. It's also eBay. What else is there? There's lots of these global marketplaces now, though. everyone still loves the sale, especially during this cost of living crisis in Australia. There was this. Has anyone seen this graph? So we had the Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock say that there could be another interest rate rise. This is the spending trends by age. So as you can see, it is basically, forget class warfare, this is intergenerational warfare brewing. So total changing spending, 25 to 29-year-olds, minus 5%. 30 to 34-year-olds, minus 2%, 30 to 39-year-olds, minus 1%. But look at the 70 to 74s, the boomers, 5.9% increase in spending, 75 plus, 8% increase in spending. The how entertainment and travel spending changed. Cruise liners, 55% increase. Online travel booking, 34% increase. Commercial airlines, 6%. Cinemas, 31%. Ticketing services, 18%, events, 9%, tourist attractions, 7%. The biggest reductions, aquariums, zoos, museums, and galleries, indoor recreation, and bowling alleys. Basically, parents can't afford to take their kids bowling or to a indoor play center or to any form of a zoo, aquarium, that sort of thing there, that must be absolutely heartbreaking there for parents. But it's not just it's not just a meme, the intergenerational warfare there. Look at that graph there. The boomers are spending like absolute crazy there, while the Gen Y and Zoomers, they are cutting back like crazy. Ron Nelson says abolish the Fed. Yes. Well, abolish all central banking. You know, our societies existed without them. Competing currencies, gold standard. Javier Milei's got the right idea with competing currencies there. And Lady of Charlotte is right. The price of things is still going up. And there is petrol is still expensive. Obviously, Albanese and his energy minister, Chris Bowen, are not helping. Our price of electricity is not decreasing by $275. It's just going up. And he wants to spend another $20 billion on those transmission lines from solar and wind farms. So he's cutting back on infrastructure, road and rail, but spending it all on these. If we just adopted nuclear power, could use existing transmission line. There you go. We're not at the stage of Venezuela or Argentina yet, P. Cosiman. So for us to get our Javier Milei, we need inflation to be at 140%. We need things to get really, really shit. And for the leftists to get even more shit, for somebody like that to come to come and radically change our society for the better. And I can't wait when Milei actually takes office. Now, let's go over to the United States, where, of course, Rishi Sunak shook up things big time when he sacked his Home Secretary Suella Braverman and shifted James Cleverly, the Foreign Secretary, to the Home Office and brought back David Cameron, the former Prime Minister, as Foreign Minister, and King Charles gave him a peerage, a life peerage in the House of Lords, so he could be around the cabinet table there. Suella Braverman, she achieved nothing as Home Secretary. The boats didn't stop. There was people still continued to be arrested for misgendering and all sorts of ridiculous hate speech, thought crimes. So she released a blistering letter criticizing Rishi Sunak, claiming that Rishi Sunak broke the conditions that she accepted the Home Secretary role. So he didn't meet those conditions that she put on accepting the role. And so these were, among other things, reduce overall legal migration, as set out in the 2019 manifesto, include specific notwithstanding clauses into new legislation to stop the boats, exclude the operation of the European Convention on Human Rights, the Human Rights Act, and other international law that have thus far obstructed progress on this issue, deliver the Northern Ireland Protocol and retained EU law bills in their existing form and timetable, issue unequivocal statutory guidance to schools to protect biological sex, safeguard single-sex spaces, and empower persons to know what is being taught to their children. And so it goes on. It's 2 pages. I'll go to the second page. Second page here. Because I've got a smaller screen here, I have to enlarge it. So it says here, it was clear from day one that if you did not wish to leave the European Convention on Human Rights, the way to securely and swiftly deliver our Rwandan partnership would be to block all the ECRC, HRA, and any other obligation which inhibit our ability to remove those with no right to be in the UK. Ideal expressly referred to notwithstanding clauses. Your rejection of this path was not merely a betrayal of our agreement, but a betrayal of your promise to the nation that you would do whatever it takes to stop the boats. And so it goes on that at every stage of litigation, I caution that you and your team against assuming we would win. And of course, the Supreme Court of the UK ruled that the Rwandan solution was unlawful because they deemed it not a safe resettlement country, that these asylum seekers could not be safe. They could in fact be deported back to the countries where they came from. And the Supreme Court of the UK, that was established by the Labour government under Gordon Brown as the highest court in the land. The highest court in the land used to be the House of Lords Judicial Appellate Committee. So if Rishi Sunak seriously meant business, well, he should leave the Council for Europe and the European Court of Human Rights, and also gut the Human Rights Act and abolish the Supreme Court. Like, at least they can in the UK abolish their Supreme Court, unlike we can't abolish our High Court. Though Rishi Sunak, he still claims that he's definitely going to proceed with legislation to make sure that the Rwandan solution happens. So he said that he has not ruled out calling a general election if the House of Lords blocks his plan to support asylum seekers to Rwanda. So this is what he told ITV.
We've got to get the Rwanda plan up and running. I will do whatever it takes to make that happen. People are sick of this merry-go-round. I want to end it. My patience is wearing thin like everyone else's. That's why our emergency legislation will make it crystal clear that Rwanda is safe for these purposes. It meets all the concerns that people have raised because of our new arrangement with them. And we want to stop any more domestic challenges to this program. And I've also been clear that we won't let a foreign court stand in the way of us getting a flight off to Rwanda.
It takes a long time, though, as you know, for legislation to get through Parliament. So would you call an election if the Lords block your plan?
Well, it doesn't have to take a long time to get legislation through, and that's a question for the Labour Party. We're determined to get this through as quickly as possible. So the real question is, are the Labour Party going to stand in the way and stop this from happening, or are they going to work with us and support this bill so we can get it through as quickly as possible? I know that the British people want this problem gripped. I know the British people will want this new law to pass so we can get flights off to Rwanda. So really, the question is for Keir Starmer and Labour Party, why don't they?
Now, you can still take it to the bank that not a single flight of illegal asylum seekers will take off from the UK to Rwanda. And as Suella Braverman, she should have resigned if she knew that she wasn't going to be able to implement her agenda as Home Secretary. I mean, that's what she should have done. rather than just be sacked. So Rishi Sunak, he could abolish the Supreme Court, leave the Council for Europe and the European Court on human rights, gut the Human Rights Act. Where there's political will, there's a way. We saw during COVID how governments can completely shut national borders so nobody can get in. I mean, so they can shut national borders to make sure that nobody gets in. It can be done if they have a will. And Rishi Sunak doesn't have the will. He's just a political opportunist, grandstander, just does cheap talk. And the boats are still coming across the English Channel, and including 6 suspected Iranian-backed Islamist terrorists. So they got into the UK on a dinghy from the beach of France. So they are on the loose in the UK, and the security agencies, Secret Intelligence Service, doesn't know where they are. So despite discovering the alleged plot, they were able to linked to their planned attack, they were able to spuriously enter the country by boarding people smuggler operated by Group in Flan across the English Channel, whereupon they would have likely been brought ashore by British fortifiers, as is typically the case. According to the report, 3 of the suspected terrorists are currently under surveillance. However, 3 have gone missing under fake IDs. The information indicates that these people are terrorists planning to attack government buildings in England, Scotland, and Wales. Although they arrived without identification, we all believe are now in possession of documents. They plan to commit an act which embarrasses the government. This could mean damage, immunity, or even close proximity cyber attacks. They would not anticipate this is a mass casualty event. Just great, just bloody great. Though you know who the British authorities they have put in prison another thought criminal, the Reverend James Costello, who I interviewed on Wilmsfront. He covered. You'll remember there was a protest outside a migrant hotel in Merseyside after a young girl filmed herself being propositioned by an illegal asylum seeker. So he has now been jailed for 5 years. He was on trial for the content of a website relating to his chosen religion, creativity, and found guilty on 19 counts. While no one having suffered from his religion or website, the British state raided James' home in 2021, arresting him, yet failed to bring charges until over a year later. James was on unconditional bail up until his sentencing, showing that the state did not actually consider him any sort of danger to the public, but will now be facing minimum 2.5 years imprisonment. To highlight the extent of the injustice, the judge who jailed James, one Andrew Meneray, had previously given a pedophile court with over 1,100 child abuse images, including 207 photos and 49 videos, graded as Category A, the most serious category involving child rape, a suspended sentence. There's no jail time at all. This fundraiser is raising money for James while he is held as a political prisoner of the tyrannical British state. Money will be sent to his commissary funds at his request while he's inside to help him get his feet on the police. Now, where is, the so-called free speech union, Talk TV, GB News, The Spectator, Unheard, Quillette, Spiked Online? How come they're not demanding the release of James Costello? How come they're not still lobbying for the release of Alex Belfield, who was sentenced to 5 years in prison for basically offending Jeremy Vine and was found guilty of stalking? Where are all of these so-called warriors of free speech, the home of free speech, GB News? Where are all they advocating for the immediate release of political prisoners, James Costello and Alex Belfield? Now, Lady of Charlotte has asked how can we support James? Well, what I just shared here is the Give, Send, Go that was set up by Samuel Malia, who is Laura Towler's husband. So he has set that up. It's being shared by all the Patriarch Alternative Telegram channels and socials. So I've put the Give, Send, Go link into the live chat. Lady Charlotte says, Colette are the worst. Helen Dale pontificating on Australia from the comfort of wealthy London. I don't mind Helen Dale myself. I do not like the editor of Colette, Claire Lehman. I mean, she claimed that she mocked that Australia was under COVID tyranny, that you couldn't call the COVID you couldn't use the hype. It was wrong to use the hyperbole that the COVID camps were like concentration camps. She believes that the COVID vaccines were a wonder of science, and shame on anyone for disputing it. I mean, she is probably the worst manifestation of the intellectual dark web. She was in London for the art conference, and of course was was in awe that Jordan Peterson turned up to her Colette social. She during COVID had a quarantine book club, and despite her cheering on the COVID lockdowns, and I mean, she was able to be fined from the comfort of a Sydney Harbourside mansion. She was awarded the Libertarian of the Year by the Friedman Conference by Tim Andrews and John Humphreys in 2020. And Larry Charlotte says, Claire Lehman is awful. You're right. She thought Australia handled COVID really well. She was in London. Well, she's actually, as I just said, she was in a Harbourside mansion in Sydney. So yes, this is why I get so pissed off about these so-called, free speech warrior websites and TV networks. They do not stand up for the actual forgotten political prisoners like James Costello and Alex Belfield. We should never forget about them. I know that Katie Hopkins, she regularly corresponds with Alex in prison, and was also visited him. So she had a joint tour with Alex when he was with us. Here's Voice of Reason channel. Absolutely, one of the most entertaining vlogs I've ever come across. I mean, he could just talk million miles a minute. He's got much more. I'm happy to admit he's got much more charisma, and he's much more witty than I could ever be. So that brings us to the end of this special makeup edition of Tim's News Explosion. Thank you for everyone for tuning in 2 days late. Now, I haven't recorded any reports from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft because he has been busy organising the Melbourne Underground Film Festival for 2023. The posters have now been released, so I'll bring it up on screen. It's because I'm on the MacBook, it's so slow. So it's from December 8th to the 14th. All the venues are in Melbourne's north, so Brunswick, Northcote, and Thomastown. I'm not sure I'll go because I just don't venture north or that far north. I mean, Northcote, Brunswick, Greens, Central, Thomastown's near Broadmeadows. I mean, that's basically the Arabia center of Melbourne. Is there any Melburnians in the chat who are from the north of Melbourne? I mean, I'm a southerner, so Frankston, Mornington Peninsula. So I know that Zach Galloway, who running from Comfort, he lives in Brunswick and he loves it, even though his public enemy, one of the number one public enemies there, as a freedom-loving Christian there. Dawn Browning says, I don't do north either. Yeah. I mean, I've heard that there are parts of San Francisco where they don't need they don't need to put all the products behind lock and key because there's not much shoplifting there. So, like, not all of Melbourne's it is really awful. There's some nice parts, including there's actually, as I was just mentioning, there's some nice parts there of San Francisco. Amazingly, we just think it's all bad. Just like a lot of people just think that Melbourne's all bad, but there's good parts of Melbourne where there's actual real sane people here. Now, if you want to support the work of the Unshackled, get my technology back on track, go to the unshackled.net/membership, have a bronze membership for $5 per month. I'll put the link into the live chat here. Unshackled.net/membership, bronze $5 per month, silver $10 per month, gold $25 per month, platinum $10 per month. And of course, the Unshackled has our the unshackled.net has our Unshackled Productions archive and also our written articles. Now, I will see you next for another Tim's News Explosion back on Monday night, 9 p.m. on the Wilmsfront channels, and then The Theorist, same time as always, 9 p.m. Tuesday on the Theorist channels as well. Thank you all for watching this makeup show tonight, and I will see you all on Monday. Good night.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News